got to have these conversations. We've got to have these conversations around shame, around things that we've been taught as women, particularly to hide away as well. Because when we shed the light on shame, guess what? We come out of the fucking light and we make people feel like they're less alone. And in a world where most people are damn lonely, that's what we need most in the world. Thank you for making yourself so vulnerable. It's incredibly powerful for the rest of us. Okay. Oh, sorry, I had a little moment there. It triggered me a little. Helen Zeida. Hi. Helen is a coach who helps leaders who struggle with stress, and manage to support everyone else while ignoring their own needs. Helen helps social workers, residential care, and education leaders create a life that they love, where they can switch off without feeling guilty. I want to hear all about that. Her coaching approach is developed from holding highly responsible roles and creating a practical toolkit to cope with them, and from her training in NLP, emotional intelligence, and mental fitness. Her love of traveling, festivals, and extreme empowerment means Helen makes change and doing important work both possible and fun. Welcome to the stage, Helen!
Hello, everyone. I want to ask you a question. Do you find it hard to switch off? Do you have that brain that starts to tell you, usually as you get into bed, all of those things that you haven't done that day and that long to-do list? Good, it's not just me then, that's fine. So when that happens, usually we have been running round in circles. We have been trying to get stuff done. And what can happen in those moments is that we've gone in throughout the day into survival mode. And what I mean by that is we've gone into fight, flight, and freeze. You recognize those? Yeah. Okay, I thought you would. We've lived through them. So how it shows up for me, and see if you recognize any of these as well, is that the fight often shows up as perfectionist Polly. Perfectionist Polly wants me to work harder, do more, keep going, because she's never satisfied. Have one of those? Perfectionist Polly, 11 out of 10 isn't good enough. The flight energy, the flight turns up as procrastinating Pam, who does so many things, does everything apart from what she's actually meant to be doing. I have a really clean bathroom and kitchen when I've got a deadline. Anyone recognize that one? Yeah? And the third type of energy that comes up is the freeze energy. And for me, that's overwhelmed Olive, who's got so much to do that actually I don't even know where to start. So, what if I told you that there was one thing that you could do that would get them to quieten down? And, would that be useful, yeah? And helps you feel and know that you're good enough, you've done enough, and you can do it. You can do exactly what you set out to do. And when you get there, you can switch off, you can relax, you can take it easy. Wouldn't that be lovely? Isn't that a really great prospect? So I'm Helen, and I work with people who find it really hard to switch off because they are the ones who have so much responsibility on their shoulders. They are the children's home managers, the social care leaders, the heads of care, heads of education, and they're so busy supporting everybody else that they ignore their own needs. They forget about putting themselves even in the mix, not even first. So this is like my client, let's call her Dee. And Dee came to me and she told me she was drowning. She was drowning over, up to her eyeballs and beyond, and spiraling down. And for her, that was having a massive impact and getting her to the stage where she was thinking of leaving this job that she loved so much, and she cared so much, and she worked so hard, and she did so much because it was so important. Now for Dee, and what often happens when we're in this kind of situation, is that with those fantastic 3, we get a judge as well. And what that judge does is get us to ask really rubbish questions, like, why can't I cope? And what's gone wrong? And whose fault is it? And even worse, what's wrong with me? And I'm here to say there's nothing wrong at all. And there is one thing that you can do that will change that will make the world of difference. Now, do you want to know what that is? Yeah. Would you like to know? I want you to go away with something useful today. So that one thing is a question. And it's not those questions that when we put them into our human Google tells us all the things we're doing wrong and all the reasons why we can't have what we want. It's actually a much better question. So listen carefully, because this is really important and it's really powerful. I asked my client, what do you want to have happen? What do you want to have happen? And in that moment, what happens is we're shifting our focus away from the firefighting and the chaos, and we're moving it towards being a creator instead. So, it's really important to know about the reality, the current reality, in its true form. No stories. It's important to acknowledge that as well, how difficult, how tough, how much on your plate that is. And not just the reality, it's really important to recognize and to aim for what we want to have happen, to aim for the outcomes, to know where we're going. Now, when we've got both of those, we've got creative tension. Now, creative tension is a physics term. I'm surprised I'm talking about physics, but I am. Creative tension is what's happened when we're really clear on the current reality and we're really clear on what we want to create. And when we've got both of those, what happens is actually a law of nature. The physics says that energy follows the path of least resistance. Now, that can feel really hard work. That can feel as though we are putting in all the effort, but we're not actually getting anywhere. So if we want to follow the path of least resistance, we get clear on both of these, and then that is where we get to. So we're using the law of nature, we're using physics to enable us to get to the place that we want to go. Now, okay, there's a little bit more to it than that. There may be some follow-up questions, and those are along the lines of, what do you need? Who can help you? What skills and strengths have you got that will help you get there? And a really important question is, what's the first step? Because once we take that first step, then we've got motion, then we've got momentum, then we're moving away from this and towards what we want. And when we take that first step, what also happens is that if we start to veer off, we can notice we've got a feedback loop, we can find out and we can put ourselves back on track, but we're still moving forwards. So action is the best de-overwhelm tool. So we can let that go, and in that action, something magic happens. And in that action, we're starting to create, away from firefighting into creation. So we're taking action, we're moving, we're getting momentum. Now, how does this relate to switching off? Well, when we've made that decision, that choice point of what those actions are, and we've got to this one, we can decide that's enough for the day. We can switch off, we can slow down, we can stop, because we know that we're coming back tomorrow. We know that we're going to be taking those steps. We can see that progress. And this is where we give ourselves permission and we switch off. So, like my client Dee, 6 weeks, in 6 short weeks, she was able to slow down. She was able to regain control. She wasn't spiraling anymore. And she was able to switch off. and she was able to take a holiday. So she hadn't been on holiday for 7 years without her work laptop and her work phone. And her husband and her kids, she took those with her. She didn't go away without them. Her husband and her kids, they got their wife back and they got their mum back. And that is massive. So, my mission is that anyone who supports other people in their lives doesn't have to sacrifice their own lives to do so. That they should never feel alone or isolated or unsupported. And so if you know any social care leaders or anyone with that hefty responsibility that they're carrying all on their own shoulders and you're worried that they might break, then get in touch with me. Or if you yourself want to find out what those questions are so that you can take the actions towards what you want, then there's a QR code. Get in touch. Let's have a virtual cuppa and talk about it more, and it would be my pleasure to have that conversation with you. Thank you very much.